Hey friends, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby and today we're going to be starting on another reading vlog, and this reading vlog is going to be special because it's going to be reading books that are inspired or that feel like the show Black Mirror. And if you're unfamiliar with Black Mirror and if you've never seen Black Mirror, you can still totally check out this video and watch this video because these are going to be books that have some really cool like sci-fi elements or like some technology elements. If you don't know what Black Mirror is, it's this anthology show that's on Netflix. It's been airing since 2011 and there's currently 6 seasons available to watch. And what I think is really cool about Black Mirror is that every episode is a different story. So you can really start anywhere with like any episode that sounds interesting to you. The premise for the show on IMDb just says that it's a UK and USA non-hosted anthology series, and it unveils how modern technologies can backfire and be used against their makers. And that's really the gist of the show to me, is when technology backfires, and it kind of shows like the evils of technology and how, yeah, technology advancement can be really cool, but it can also be really scary. And I love Black Mirror so much. I've been wanting to make a video like this for so freaking long, and after watching the new season 6 of Black Mirror, it just really inspired me to want to make this. And so in this video, I'm going to be reading 3 books that are inspired by Black Mirror, or that other people have said these books have Black Mirror vibes. But before we do jump into today's video, I just wanted to take a second to thank Factor for sponsoring today's video. Factor makes meeting your nutrition goals easier than ever by delivering fresh, never frozen, and dietitian approved meals right to your door. They have a team of gourmet chefs who create each one of these meals. I think Factor is the perfect solution if you are busy this summer and you have a lot going on and you don't have time to do all of the grocery shopping and the cooking and the preparing of the food. It's so nice that with Factor you can get the nutritional quality of food that you're looking for without doing all of the extra work, because these meals are ready in just 2 minutes when you throw them in the microwave, or you can put them on a pan and throw them in the oven for about 7 minutes if you have a little bit more time. So they make it so easy. I really love how quick these meals are ready, because you know, some nights you just don't want to cook dinner, you just don't want to do all of the things. They make it easy to stick to your food goals because they have premium high quality ingredients with things like broccolini and asparagus. If you're trying to eat a little bit of less calories during the summer as well, they do have dietitian approved calorie smart meals where the calories are either 550 or less per meal. I also think that Factor is great if you're trying to save some money this summer as well, because Factor is cheaper than getting most takeout, and it's quicker than restaurant delivery because it's ready in just 2 minutes. It's ready to go right out of your fridge to your microwave or to your oven. It is just so convenient, and I think that's my favorite thing about Factor, is how convenient it is. The other night we were having a pretty busy night, and so I just threw a few of these into the oven for me and my sister, and they were so good and so flavorful. I really like having Factor for those nights where I just don't feel like putting in the extra effort of like trying to cook and do all of the things when I already have so many things I'm taking on that day. And I love that even though I feel like I'm putting in less effort into making the food still tastes fantastic and I don't have to miss out on the flavor and like a good meal. And Factor is now owned by HelloFresh, so with such a wide variety of food meal options to choose from, there really is something for everyone. I really do enjoy switching between both of the brands, and now you can as well at a discount with me. So you can head to factor75.com and use my code gabbyreads50 to get 50% off your first box. Isn't that such a great deal? When you go to factor75.com, you use my code gabbyreads50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. That's incredible. Thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring today's video. And now let's talk about the books that I'll be reading for this video. The first book that I decided to read came from this article from Penguin. The article is titled 9 Books to Read If You Love Black Mirror. So from this article, I decided to read The Last One by Alexandra Olivia, and this is going to be one that I'll be checking out from my library because my library does have a copy of this book. And this one, the premise of this one just says it follows this woman named Zoo who takes part in a reality show in a search for adventure, aiming to beat 11 competitors in a series of survival tasks that take place deep in the wilderness. However, things soon become even darker as the contestants are subjected to twisted mind games, abandoned towns, and gruesome props begin to haunt them. What if those aren't games at all? What if there's something else going on in the world that means the contestants' survival really isn't guaranteed? This one sounds like it's gonna be really unique and interesting. I do love the idea of like reading about a reality TV show gone wrong kind of trope, and so I'm really curious about this one. This article also did mention one of my other favorites, The One by John Mars. I would definitely be reading this book if I hadn't already, because this is one of my favorite books that I always tell everyone is very comparable to Black Mirror. But the second book that I'm going to be reading for this video comes from a GQ article. GQ did an article, 12 books to read after binge watching Black Mirror, and in this article they talk about Never Let Me Go, which this is a book that I have been wanting to read for a number of years now. I always always knew that I wanted to save this book for something like this because I had always heard a lot of people talk about how this is comparable to Black Mirror. And this article says that this novel is such a perfect companion to Black Mirror that it could be easily adapted by the series in the future. It says Never Let Me Go is a heartbreaking character-driven story with science fiction trappings. It follows a group of students in a boarding school that the reader slowly begins to realize is creepily off. The big sci-fi twist is one that I won't spoil here, but suffice to say that you'll remember it long after you finish. So safe to say I am intrigued by this. I've been wanting to read this book for such a long time, and I'm so happy that I'm finally making this video and I'll finally have the opportunity to read it. And then the last book that I'm going to be reading for this video is one that I picked out myself, and it's Out There by Kate Folk. And this is one that I've actually had sitting on my shelves for quite some time because this is a collection of short stories. The premise on this one says it's wildly imaginative. Out There depicts an uncanny landscape that holds a mirror to our subconscious fears and desires. And this book is described as speculative literary fiction. I've heard from a few people that have read this book that this book does have Black Mirror vibes, and if you look at one of the blurbs on the very back of this book, they do talk about Black Mirror. And so just the fact that this has been compared to Black Mirror quite a bit, I've been saving this book because I've been wanting to read this for like over a year now. I've just had it sitting on my shelves. This is one of the most beautiful freaking book covers that I've ever seen in my life. And so now is finally the time that I'm gonna be reading this one. I'm so excited. I also think because this one is a collection of like short stories, it'll feel even more like Black Mirror because Black Mirror is an anthology as well. So yeah, these are the 3 books that I'm going to be reading for this video. Over on my Patreon this month, I am doing a Patreon exclusive video that's kind of like a companion video with this one where I tier rank every single episode of Black Mirror and I kind of go into detail about which ones are my favorites and what I think about each individual episode. So if you would like to check that out, I'll have it linked down below because there are so many great episodes of Black Mirror, but I did narrow it down to my 6 god tier favorite episodes of Black Mirror. So if you'd like to see that video and you'd like to see what my god tiers are, then I will have that video linked down below, but otherwise, let's get right into the reading. I'm so excited! Hello, I wanted to do a quick update because I have been reading the last one and I'm actually more than 50% of the way through the book now. I've read 13 chapters, which puts me at about 156 pages in, so I'm right about at the halfway point. I really do like the premise and the idea of this book because it's one of those like reality show gone wrong kind of plots. It almost kind of reminds me, like I feel like I've read a few books kind of like this before. Like for example, Patricia Wants to Cuddle is one that comes to mind that just reminds me of the style of this where it's like a reality show gone wrong, like things aren't really going to plan. And kind of similarly to Patricia Wants to Cuddle, I feel kind of meh about this book so far. I mean, at the 50% mark, I'm almost considering DNFing this book at this point because of how uninterested I am, which is kind of a bummer because I think, you know, this book starts with a chapter 0. Chapter 0 was so interesting because it was almost kind of like a flash forward, like seeing something that happens towards the end of the show, and it kind of gives you a tease at like what's to come. And I thought chapter 0 was so interesting and so like intense. But then shortly after that, after we get to chapter 1 and then all the way now through chapter 13, I am just struggling to get through this. I feel like as much as I love the idea of a reality TV show gone wrong, I have not yet found a book where I enjoy myself while reading it, and I feel like there's so many characters in this book and I don't care about a single one of them. And I do realize that maybe with a book like this that's like trying to show reality TV and how ridiculous it is, like maybe I'm not supposed to care about any of the characters, but I also feel like I'm just not that interested in the story because I don't care about any of the characters. I mean, I guess I can see why people would compare this to Black Mirror, just in the sense that like showing like how we as a society are obsessed with, you know, reality TV and media that isn't really real, and kind of like, you know, what that says about us as a society, that we enjoy watching people suffer. There's a character in this book who is our protagonist, and her name is Zoo, and she is probably by far the most interesting and like fleshed out character in this book. But even still, even though she's the one that I care the most about, I still don't care enough about her. I feel like most of this story so far has just been a really kind of dry and boring kind of survival story, which I've talked about this like time and time again, how I just don't love survival stories. I know that I'm in the minority there because I know a lot of people really love reading survival stories because they think the stakes are just like so high and like people do whatever they can that it takes to survive. But I also feel like for me, I don't know, survival stories just get so repetitive because it's just like one thing after the other, like where are you gonna get your next meal from? Where are you gonna get water? And just like the constant cycle of like trying to survive, it gets boring to me after a while, and I feel like this is really starting to bore me. I do see too that on the premise of the book here on the inside description, it does say the last one is a novel that forces us to confront the role that media plays in our perception of what is real, which I do think is kind of true because, you know, this is definitely a situation where it's like a reality TV show gone wrong, and so like these contestants don't even know what is actually like really a part of the show and what's actually like real life. And you know, as things start to go wrong, they're starting to realize like, oh, maybe this isn't even part of the show, or they're still thinking that it is. It's really like playing games with their mind. So I can definitely see that, but I still really, I don't think I would personally compare this one to Black Mirror. At least like I'm not feeling that connection right now. I do think because I'm already more than halfway through, I am going to try to finish up this book this afternoon. I still have about 2 hours before I have a live show with my friend Savannah for her book club that I'm going to be doing at 4. And so I'm probably just going to continue listening to this on audio throughout the rest of the day and try to finish it up, even though at the moment I'm not enjoying it. But who knows, maybe in the second half it'll turn around, so let's hope.
Last show for the chateau. Boss. Boss ass.
Hi, what a night. It's much later in the night, it's about 10 o'clock. Earlier tonight I did the live show with Savannah and Liv, which was super fun. We all ended up really disliking the book, so it was kind of fun that we were all on the same page and we just kind of got to like roast the book together. And then after that, I ended up making dinner. I made a really nice HelloFresh dinner tonight. And then after that, my sister and I, we just spontaneously decided to make some cupcakes because we've had this cupcake mix just like sitting in our cupboards for a while, and I was like, yo, let's do it tonight. So we made some rainbow, like those little confetti, like rainbow cupcakes. Like those are so freaking good. And then right after that, my sister was like, we need to finish making our Eras Tour bracelets, like our friendship bracelets, because we had made some, well, really like my sister and my mom had made some a little while ago. We wanted to make enough so that we could have some to like hand out to other fans, because the whole thing with the Taylor Swift Eras Tour is that you make the friendship bracelets to like pass around, you know, like you pass them out to the other Swifties. And so we wanted to have enough that we could like hand out some at the concert. So we were doing that for the rest of the night. And then after, I was able to come back upstairs, finish the audiobook for the last one. But unfortunately, I'm not coming at you with great news because I just wasn't a huge fan of this one. I feel like this book is probably gonna end up being about a 2-star for me, and I honestly do think I have some regrets because I do think I probably would have just been better off DNFing this book because I very clearly was not enjoying it since the last update, and my feelings on it have not really changed. You know, it's really impressive that this book is only about 290 pages, but it feels so much longer than that. Like this book just felt like it was dragging. It felt like it was going on and on. Something weird about this book that I forgot to mention in the last update is the way that it's narrated. I just found it to be very odd because not only do we get like the perspective of the girl Zoo, but we also get this like third-person narrator that's kind of like this ominous narrator, and it's weird because the narrator doesn't use the contestants' actual names, so he'll be referring to people as like, oh, the waitress, the exorcist, the biology, the engineer, the boy cheerleader, the rancher, and like different things like that, and I just found that to be super weird. I feel like it also, in a way, made me feel so disconnected from the characters because we wouldn't even know their names. Like, he would just call them by like what their job is, I guess. But I'm also thinking like maybe that's the point, is that like we don't really know these people who are on reality TV. Like we don't really know anything about them usually besides their job. So like maybe it was trying to make a point in that way, I guess. I don't really know. And then even by the ending of this book, that last chapter, like, I just found it all to be really underwhelming. It's like, I get what this book was trying to go for, I guess, but at the same time, I just feel like this was a huge, like, missed opportunity. Gosh, I feel like this happens to me every time I read books that are about, like, reality TV shows. I feel like they never end up panning out the way that I want them to. Like, I don't even know if I can think of one good book off the top of my head that has a premise similar to this, where it's like a reality show gone wrong, because it always sounds like it's gonna be a fun time, and then it usually ends up not being a fun time for me. So I don't know why I keep trying. But the biggest connection I can make with this story with like Black Mirror would be the way that, you know, these reality shows kind of skew our perception of reality. I think this book does do a good job of showing how easily people can be manipulated into believing something's real when it's not. But I still just think the story overall was so freaking boring, and I don't think that fans of Black Mirror would be like absolutely obsessed with this, because there wasn't enough connection for me there. Hello, what's up? It's the next day and I wanted to update you because I have started on the next book, which is Out There by Kate Folk. And this one has been really interesting so far. I'm about 84 pages in, and this one is a collection of short stories. So I've read 6 of the short stories so far. Earlier today, I was doing some reading sprints on my Patreon, which was really fun. And so far, these first 6 stories have been really interesting. I'm not gonna lie, the last 2 that I just read have been like around like a 2 out of 5 for me. Like the last 2 were like not my favorite, and they were called Shelter and The Head in the Floor. I was honestly like a little bit confused on the reason for like why they were even a thing. Like, I don't know, I just thought they were very strange. But the first short story in this collection is called Out There, which is kind of the one that, you know, the whole thing is based off of, I guess. And that one was really interesting, and I feel like that one was the most similar to a Black Mirror episode for me so far, because in that one we're following this woman who is dating different men, and in this universe there are these things called blots, which are basically like men who aren't real. Like, they're kind of like fake people, but they look like people, and they're, you know, made to be like really attractive and really good looking. And it's really interesting because in this world, they're mentioning how the blots were originally designed to perform caretaking jobs that required like a high level of empathy. But then it's interesting because they said then, you know, like their blot technology got hacked and blots were employed in illegal activities with like identity fraud. And then they also began using dating apps to like target vulnerable women, following this woman who is trying to go on dates, and she keeps trying to figure out if the guys that she's hanging around with are blots or if they're actual guys. And it's just so interesting to think about, you know, because there's another quote that says, "Blots were always male because their original creators believed that male blots would more easily convey authority, minimizing the risk of sexual exploitation," which is so interesting. And it was really interesting because the whole short story was about her dating this guy named Sam, and almost the whole thing was her trying to figure out if this guy was actually a blot or if he was like a real person. And I don't know, I really loved the writing in that first short story. I just thought the writing was so well done and so beautiful. But all of these stories have been pretty memorable so far. Like, the second short story in this collection is called The Last Woman on Earth, and it literally follows the only woman that's left on Earth, and it kind of talks about how like she has a talk show and she's like super popular because, you know, she's literally the only woman on Earth, so all the men really enjoy watching her. But then it's also about how like all of the men start to turn against her, and they're like, well, you only have everything that you have because you're the last woman on Earth, and like acting like she doesn't deserve what she has. Like, she's being handed out things like her own TV show and things like that. And I really feel like this is a great commentary on how men treat women in power in general. Like, it was such good commentary on it, and I thought it was such a fascinating short story. Like, the ending of it just really got to me and like stuck with me as like something really powerful, so I really liked that one. The third short story in this was also so weird. It was called Heart Seeks Brain, and it was like this weird world where like people get really obsessed with other people's organs. And I know that this was definitely some commentary about how ridiculous it is in society, like the things that we care about and the things that we find attractive, and like put pressure on ourselves to be a certain way, because they would be talking about how she's like, oh, I wish my kidneys were like a little bit smaller, or like I wish my liver was shaped just a little bit differently, and like people would get obsessed with like collecting tissue from your organs, and it was like this really weird body horror in that one. Like some of the body horror was making me a little bit squeamish in that story, but it was also so fascinating. I don't know, I still feel like so far the first short story out there is probably my favorite among them, but I think the first 3 were really strong, and I don't have any strong feelings about the next few that I've read, but so far I'm loving this. Literally as soon as I sit down, Tink's like, I want to be on your lap though. Oh my gosh. Hello. It is the next day. I did not end up updating you at all last night because after I had dinner, I went over to my parents' house to help them with the TV because my parents bought a new TV and it was so freaking heavy. We had to like mount it to their wall, you know? So like it took me, Rachel, Obed, like we were all over there for, you know, for about an hour helping them with the new TV. But the cool thing is that they gave us their old TV, which is a lot bigger than our current TV. So we have a TV just like sitting here in our living room right now. We're gonna be putting it up probably today. But yeah, it's been a really busy day. I just wanted to update because I just went to the library this morning. I dropped off a bunch of library holds and I picked up some library holds, and I ended up going to one of my favorite coffee spots. Hello, sir. And then I also wanted to update because I have still been reading out there 163 pages into this, and I actually only have 3 stories left. So since the last time that I've updated you, I have read, what, 6? I've read another 6 short stories, I'm pretty sure. And I'm sad to let you know that things are not really going well for me right now with this one, because out of these last couple of short stories that I read, the one Tahoe was a 2 out of 5 stars. The story Dog Eyes was a 2 out of 5 stars. The House is Beating Heart was a 3 out of 5 stars. A Scale Model of Gold Point was another 2 out of 5 stars. Like, I don't even understand what the hell that one was about. And then there was this one called Dating a Somnambulist. I don't know, that one was about a 3.5 out of 5 stars. That was definitely the most enjoyable out of these most recent ones, because that one was about this girl and her boyfriend who does really weird things when he's sleeping. Like, he does like some really freaky, unexplainable weird things, and the way that this author just took this story to like the most extremes, it was very odd and very entertaining. So that was definitely my favorite out of the last few that I've read. There was also one short story that was called The Bone Ward, and that one is the only one in this collection that I have DNF'd that short story so far, and I don't know, it made me so uncomfortable. I didn't realize how triggering, I guess, it is for me to read about somebody whose like bone density is like turning to mush or something. Like, holy shit, new fear unlocked. Like, I did not like reading about that at all, and it was actually making me feel super like weird and uncomfortable, but in a way that I was like, I can't read this right now. Like, it was doing something to my brain. I don't know. I'm at the point where I only have 3 short stories left, and they seem like they're gonna be the longest short stories in this whole collection, because I still have a decent chunk of this book left here. God, I'm hoping to find another winner in these last 3, because the last few that I've read since I last updated you have been some of my least favorites, and like only about 2 to 3 stars, so like that is no good. It seems like the first 3 are still the strongest 3 short stories in this collection. I'm also hoping that at least one of these last 3 will also feel really similar to Black Mirror, because I also have the feeling that like a lot of these just don't really feel like Black Mirror, and they're just kind of like weird, odd little stories, but they're just not really my thing. Like, I'm just not enjoying them and not having a fun time. So anyways, it's almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon now. I'm going to try to finish this book up now, and then I'll let you know my thoughts once I'm done. Ugh. hello. It is now about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I have just finished Out There. And I have some good news and some like meh news. Kind of like news is the fact that one of the 3 last short stories that I read was called Moist House. And that one was really strange. It was about 20 pages long and that one is probably like a 2.5 out of 5 stars for me. Like it was interesting but also like very repetitive and just very weird. It was about this guy that just had to keep his house moist. The news that I'm so excited about is that the last 2 short stories in this collection I think were 5 stars for me. Like they were so freaking good. The second to last short story in this collection is called The Turkey Rumble and it was only about like 6 to 7 pages long. It was very short but it was so unique and so interesting because we followed this gay couple and the boyfriend was taking home his boyfriend to their family holiday for Thanksgiving. And it was so cool because they did this thing called the Turkey Rumble, which is basically like a secret Santa, but you draw the names of family members like a secret Santa, and then whoever's name you pull, you have to injure that family member before the end of the night. And it's like their family's tradition. They're like, everyone has to do it or whatever. And it was so interesting. It was only like 6 pages long. It was very quick, but it was so fascinating. Like I thought the concept of it was really cool. And then the ending was also like a plot twist ending, like so cool. I don't know. I was really obsessed with that short story. That's probably one of my favorites in the whole collection. And then the last story is called Big Sur. And that one was about 45 pages long. That was like definitely the longest in this whole collection. And it was really cool because it actually, like that short story at the end connected to the first short story called Out There. So those two kind of go like hand in hand. And I like that the collection starts with one that's really interesting and then ends with one that's kind of almost like a companion to that short story at the beginning. And I thought Big Sur was even better than the first short story Out There. Like that one is also a 5-star for me. Like it was so interesting and so almost like beautiful kind of and like heartfelt, and it was funny. Like there was moments where I was like laughing out loud. And that short story at the end, we follow another woman who starts to suspect that she might be dating one of these guys that's like a blot, you know, like they bring back the blot thing at the end, which I really liked because I felt like after reading that first short story I was like, there's so much more that could be explored here with this concept of a blot. So I really like that in the last short story in this collection, that idea kind of makes a comeback and we kind of get to see another story of somebody, you know, dealing with a blot. But overall, gosh, I don't know how I want to rate this overall. Out of this whole collection of stories, I only really loved like 5 and the rest of them were like 2 or maybe 3 stars for me. Like they were just okay and very forgettable. But like those 5 that I loved, I like really loved, especially those last 2. Like those last 2, it finished so strong, which is exactly what I was hoping for with this. I don't know, I feel like overall this collection is probably going to be like a 3-star for me. But I do still think this is something that's worth checking out. I always think short stories are worth checking out because if you don't end up liking one, there's probably something in the collection that you'll end up liking. Yeah, for sure, my 2 favorites in this collection were the last 2, The Turkey Rumble and Big Sur. But then I also really loved the first 3 short stories, Out There, The Last Woman on Earth, and Heart Seeks Brain. I thought those were all really great as well. I'm so excited for tonight because in about an hour, I'm gonna be going out to dinner with my parents. We're gonna be going out to a Mexican restaurant, one of my favorites in our area. And then I'm so excited because later tonight, they're doing the D-Day August D live stream on Weverse. It's the delayed stream. It's from the concerts last week that I stayed up watching during my Screaming Color readathon. I stayed up until like 1 in the morning watching this concert, but they're doing the delayed stream now at like a normal hour for me, streaming the concert again tonight at 7 o'clock. And so because my mom hasn't seen any of the D-Day concerts or anything yet, I'm gonna go over to the house and watch it with her, which I'm so excited about. And I'm just, in general, just really excited to watch this D-Day concert again because I'm gonna be watching the one tonight that I haven't seen yet because there was 2 concerts and I only stayed up for one of them. And so the one tonight, I haven't seen it yet. I'm so excited. And I think it's gonna be really great. And then hopefully tomorrow I can get started on the next book for this vlog.
Small city thinking, I get why you left. Small-minded people sure know how to drink. I came to the party, I laughed at the jokes she made. I wish that I hadn't, 'cause now the joke's on me. I didn't come here just so I could watch you make a mess. I didn't come here to ugly cry in my favorite dress. So what the hell were you thinking then when you kissed your lips? Now I'm kinda glad you did, 'cause now you
hi. It has been a little over 24 hours since the last time that I updated you, because last night I had the August D live stream concert with my mom. It was so much fun. It was really great. We went out to dinner and then we watched the concert. My mom had a good time. It's been a pretty chill day. I was able to film 2 different videos and then I was editing one of the videos. I've also been trying to catch up on Black Mirror because, you know, since I'm doing the video for Patreon where I'm like going to be tier ranking all the Black Mirror episodes, I've been wanting a refresher on some of the episodes that I haven't watched in years. So I've been rewatching Black Mirror and that has been super fun, and my feelings are mostly staying the same about the episodes from what I remember, so that's also cool. But I did want to update because I am starting on Never Let Me Go. I started listening to the audiobook while I was making dinner tonight and I am now 50 pages in. I'm right at chapter 5 and this book is already it's a little bit confusing. Like, I don't really know exactly what I'm reading right now. It's confusing because the very first line in this book says, "My name is Kathy H. I'm 31 years old and I've been a carer now for over 11 years. From my understanding, we're following these 3 different characters. We're following Kathy and then her best friend Ruth, and then we're also following this guy named Tommy, and it just feels very like they're all at this boarding school and they're talking about donors and like I don't know exactly like I don't know what they're talking about. Like, I have no idea what's going on. It feels very like slice of life or like coming of age kind of story right now. And I don't know, I have a feeling that this book is going to end up feeling more like literary fiction and like coming of age style of writing, because so far that's what I'm getting from this. I'm already feeling a tad bit bored. Like, I'm only 50 pages in, so I can't say it yet. And I know it's too early to really say anything about it, but only 50 pages in, I feel like it's kind of slow. I'm really struggling to understand what's even going on. But you know, this book is only like 280 pages or so I think I'm just gonna try to push through and keep going, and I will update you with more thoughts when I have them. But now I'm nervous. Like, so far I'm like, it seems like a lot of my friends, I was looking up a lot of different reviews to see how other people felt about this, and it really seems like people either seem to not really like this one or it's like their favorite book of all time. So I'm kind of like, oh my gosh, like, where am I gonna land? Like, I don't know. But yeah, it's almost about 9 o'clock already. The sun is still out because it's summertime in Washington. I swear the sun does not go down until like 10 o'clock at night here. So I'm gonna read a little bit more in bed tonight and then I will update you with more thoughts when I have them. How's it going? It's a nice Sunday afternoon and I have been super busy this morning. I don't know, it's been a really busy morning. I'm sorry if you can hear my laptop like chugging away in the background, but I'm rendering a video right now. But earlier today I had the booktube live show with Aaron and Savannah and that was really fun. It was at 10 a.m. so I was up a little bit early for that. You know, that's usually not my finest hour in the morning. But I woke up a little bit early for that, and so that went really well. It was super fun to talk and catch up with them. My sister and I made a quick breakfast, and then I came upstairs and I finished editing 2 different videos that I had filmed yesterday, or the day before. I don't know, what is time anymore? But last night, I was able to read a little bit more of Never Let Me Go, and I got all the way up to part 2 now, so I'm about 115 pages in. I've made a little bit of progress. I feel like I'm going to try to finish this up today, though. I'm starting to enjoy the book a little bit more. Like, I'm starting to get a better understanding, I guess, of what's going on. And I don't know, it's just kind of, it's a little weird and it's a little interesting. I don't think that I'm super attached to these characters though, and I don't know if I'm supposed to be. Hi, hello, we have reached the end. It's actually been like I think it's been like 2 days since the last time that I updated this vlog, and the other day I was like, I'm gonna finish it today, and then I didn't. And it's been like 3 or 4 days now, I think, of me trying to read this book, which is only like 280 pages, and it has just been the biggest struggle for me to get through this book. Like, I don't know why. I just finished reading it though. I've been on reading sprints with my Patreon for most of this afternoon, finishing up the last like 50% of this book. And I'm really sad. Okay, I'm really sad to say this because I know a lot of people really love this book, but I think it's gonna be around like a 2 out of 5 for me just because of the amount of struggling I had getting through this book. I will say that this book definitely picked up in the last like 20 to 30% and things definitely got a lot more interesting. And by the end, I was feeling, you know, the feelings. Like, it was heartbreaking, it was sad, it's a really tragic story. It's hard for me to talk about this book because I think the idea of this book is really interesting and it's really cool, and I definitely see the connection to Black Mirror. Like, I definitely think this could be a Black Mirror episode. Like, I could see that happening, but it would also be a Black Mirror episode that I wouldn't like very much. You know, it wouldn't be one of my top faves personally. And basically this whole book, I thought it was so confusing in the first half because we're just following this character named Kathy, and she's kind of like reflecting on her childhood that she had with her closest friends, Ruth and Tommy. And these characters, I just did not connect with them right away. I never really connected with these characters, but this is a character-driven story. So like, I feel like if you don't really care about these characters, I feel like you're gonna struggle through this because this definitely feels more of like a literary fiction, like slow burning character study, kind of slice of life kind of story. And that is just not really what I was in the mood for or what I was expecting with a book like this. It's definitely a dystopian world, you know, like there's creepy things happening in this world and our characters don't really fully understand what's going on until much further into the book. And once you realize the horror of like what's actually going on with these characters, it is really interesting. But I also just feel like the majority of the story, like the actual experience of reading this book, was like watching paint dry on a wall. You know, it was very boring to read, but it has a cool concept. Like, the idea of it is cool. And so I feel like this is a book that is just full of potential for me, but it just really fell flat when it came to the actual reading experience for me. And you know, after finishing this book, I do see why so many people would love this book, you know, because I've seen so many people saying that this is one of their favorite books of all time and that it really, you know, was powerful for them. And I can totally understand that and I can see why people would enjoy this. I just personally didn't have a very fun time reading it. It's so wild because in this book, you know, these kids who are at this school or like this boarding school or this place or whatever it is, they don't really know anything outside of this world and they don't really know a whole lot about themselves and what they're doing there. And they don't have any parents or anything. They're just being taken care of by these people that are like their guardians and like their teachers there. And they use these phrases like some of the kids are carers and then some of them are donors, and they don't really know what those words mean. And you know, you as the reader are pretty much left in the dark for some time trying to figure out like what the fuck is going on and what all of this even means. I definitely feel like towards the end this book did step it up. It's just by then it was just too late for me because I was so bored out of my freaking mind. I was just ready for this to be over. But ironically, this book might feel like the most Black Mirror out of everything that I read this week. It just sucks that it didn't end up being one that I liked. So yeah, if you have read this book though, I would be curious to know your thoughts about it because I feel like people are so divided on this one from what I've seen. It feels like people either really seem to love this one or just absolutely hate it and want to DNF it and just not get it. And I'm sad that I feel like I'm more on the side of like, yeah, maybe I should have just DNF'd this because I could tell from those first like 50 pages that I was not vibing with the writing style at all. And sometimes it seems like I just torture myself like this when I push through books that I know that I'm not enjoying. But for the sake of this video, I really did want to give this book a chance, especially because this is so many people's like favorite book of all time, you know? I'm not gonna lie, I am a little bummed at the fact that I didn't find any new favorites throughout this whole vlog. Like, what the heck? I'm cursed. But I would love to know your thoughts on any of these books if you have read them. I would also love to know if you have any recommendations for me for books you think I would actually like that also have Black Mirror vibes, because clearly I was very unsuccessful here. I would also love to know if you are a fan of Black Mirror. I would love to know like what are some of your favorite episodes. Like maybe you can give me like a top 3 or a top 5 in the comments of some of your favorites, because that is so fun and I would love to know, because I feel like everyone has different favorites and it's really cool to hear about which ones you enjoy. And also just a reminder that I am doing a Patreon exclusive video this month where I tier rank all of the Black Mirror episodes so far. So if you want to hear my thoughts about like every single Black Mirror episode and kind of go into a deep dive with those, then I will have that video linked down below so you can go and check it out if you would like to. And thank you so much for hanging out and for watching. I really do appreciate you, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.